Hi folks, so today we're going to go through a complete conversion from color to black and white using Lightroom initially and then into Photoshop and utilizing TK8 luminosity masking and Artisan Pro and finally finishing it with some Topaz Studio for a final look. So we'll be using all three today to work this image all the way from its initial color to black and white. And you'll see a dramatic difference from the beginning of this all the way to the end. So first, I've already done all of my adjustments here in Lightroom. I'm a real big fan of using the X-Rite Passport, and I've made a profile for my Fuji and shot it in the daylight conditions here, so I'm using this. We've turned the white balance to daylight, which was a little bit different than what I shot it at. But it was mid-morning, so we had the nice clear daylight light. Pressed auto, and we made some small adjustments. I made sure that I took my whites and my blacks and adjusted them so I'm not clipping them right at the edge so I can expand that Gaussian profile, holding the Alt key down. This is a PC, and just dragging till I see it touch the edge and then back off just ever so slightly. And that's it. I'm not going to make any adjustment for texture, clarity, dehaze at this point. This is all done in Photoshop. So we bring this in to Photoshop pretty flat. I don't like to do a lot of editing in Lightroom. All the power still is in Photoshop. So I've already loaded it to save a little bit of time on the video. So here we are, we can begin. So my first step is to just use, well, I always want to see which one it works better. So I'm going to take a look and see if Artisan Pro looks better or TK8 looks better for black and white conversion. The Artisan Pro typically makes it very flat and takes all of the contrast out, which is a good look to start with. But I like to see if I can do better with the TK8 method here, which is here on this button right here. So I'm going to make some slight adjustments. I know from previous edits on this that I want to take the blues down just ever so slightly and the yellows up a little bit to open up underneath here, just ever so slightly. And adjust this cyan. Let's move it left and see what it looks like, and then we'll move it back to the right. I think a little bit to the right gives me the look I'm after. Maybe adjust this blue a little bit right about there. We get some separation between the sky and the building. This is a Geary building near MIT in Cambridge. So I'm going to go with the TK8 method here, and it's pretty flat. So we're going to add some contrast. We're going to tone some areas down. This needs to be corrected. This needs to be corrected. I do want to emphasize the front of this faceplate of the window a little bit more, and we'll open these up just a little bit here. And we're going to make the building itself just a little bit lighter in some areas so we can shape this a little bit more. And we'll work the sky issue as well. So to begin, I'm going to start with a paint contrast, and I'm going to start on the windows. So just press OK here. This is the TK8 paint contrast, and if we use a black brush, which is here, I can paint this. Let me make sure my brush is the right size. I don't want too big and too small here. And we got about 70% opacity up there, so I think we're good here. And we'll just paint away in this area here. So this should just make the dark areas come in a little bit darker. Of course, malfunction on the mouse. Here we go. And here. And it's not going to touch the whites, it's just going to touch the black areas here. Some of these areas here, I'm going to have to use another method to make them a bit darker. I'll probably use frequency separation, but overall, I just want to make this window a little bit darker where it's already dark. We may have to give it a second pass, especially down here. Yep. here, because if I can go over the whites, it's not going to affect it at all because I'm painting with the black brush. And this paint contrast action only works on either whites or blacks, depending on which brush you're using. And in this case, it's going to be a black one. I'll work this one up here as well. A little bit smaller brush. Keep it within the window here and here, and maybe a little bit up here. Need to be careful we don't get off the edge there. Good, very good. And now I'm going to go with the paint contrast again, but this time I'm going to work on the white or highlights. So we go in paint contrast. It's white. I'm going to make sure my opacity is down just a bit because I'm going to go in a larger area here. And we're just going to paint away and lighten all of this up. Make sure it's white. And we'll just open this up just a bit. Not too much, but just a little bit. We build this image in steps. There is no push button solution to this. We just take a look at what we have and we deal with it and adjust as needed, and sometimes go back over some areas. Now it's already too bright down the bottom, so I'm going to leave that alone. But we are working on the lighter shades here. Now I do want to work on this a little bit brighter, so I'm going to make this a little more opacity up here. And I'm going to bring my brush down ever so slightly. I just want to work on the window frames, make them a little bit more prominent. And if you make them bright against the black of the window, everything looks sharper. You don't necessarily have to use sharpening tools. Just the contrast alone will make it appear sharper. This image already is sharp, but the combination of black and white, or black and lighter, will certainly make it enhance the sharpness look. We'll go through here, a little bit up here. We'll come back over to this window, a little bit brighter, just to give a little separation here. There we go. So what does the image need next? I always ask myself that question as I go through this. So we've done a black and white conversion and paint to contrast both black and white. I think I'm going to fix these areas here. So we'll come in and I'm going to use frequency separation. It's a nice tool for difficult areas to correct. In this case, it's going to be use the color here. I'm going to take a sample from here using the Alt key. And now we can just come down here and paint that color. Oop, careful. Make my brush a little bit smaller. Let me zoom in a little bit so I don't get on that edge. There we go. Not so bad. We'll make this fit. We'll do the other corner over here. Oops. Always an accident. We'll pick here. We'll get rid of this little spot here. And we'll come up to the corner. Very carefully, come in there. Always the mistakes, so just be careful. We don't need to make it perfect. This is another technique I'm going to bring out and show you. And that'll be using the Artisan Pro. We just want it very close. There we go. Once more over here. Not so bad. Perfect, but not so bad. All right. Very good. So that's frequency separation. It's a great little tool. We're going to make this a little bit darker, a little bit further down into the process, but we'll move on here. So now I'm going to go with the TK Triple Play. You'll see me bounce back and forth between Artisan Pro 2022 and TK8. I like both of them. Think that the combination of these two plus Topaz, a little tweaking in Topaz, really makes a very distinctive black and white look that's difficult to achieve with either one of these all by themselves. But the combination of the two generally does a nice job. I really like these silverish buildings for black and white. So we're going to work on the darks initially. We'll pick this one near the top. It's probably going to be too dark, but we'll see if we can mitigate that with a S. A little bit too. There we go, right about there. As you can see, this got a little bit darker, a little bit more contrasty through here. So we've got a combination of the M's, which is the multiply mode, number 3, and we've got S of the darks as well. So that's screen mode here to kind of counteract that. Show you what this looks like before and after. That's off, it's on, just slight. And now we'll work on the lights. I think the lights will start in the middle. I don't like to start at the top. You go to the top, it's always just a little bit too much. So I start in the middle, and that seems to be a little too bright. And take that one off. We'll make that one. Right about there. It's trial and error always to see which one works quite the best for your particular image. There's no routine here of always use. It's always experiment with your particular image. So we're going to get rid of all the extra ones, and I'll press this lightning bolt right here. That gets rid of everything else that we're not using. So we'll collapse this down, and now we're going to make a stamp layer. And now we're going to make some adjustments with Artisan Pro to fix this and make this a bit blacker. So we're going to take the eyedropper tool and watch here. See, because we're going to measure the density of these. And that one is at 0, 0, 20, 20-ish, 28, 29, right up through here. So now we're going to come into micro zone adjustments. We'll deactivate what was selected before. So we know that the zone 0 is the darks from 0 to 23. So I'm going to activate this and get the blacks really dark. And then we'll work on some of these other areas up here that we didn't quite paint very dark. So we will go to strong darken. We'll start with medium darken on the blacks and see what it looks like. It's going to affect all of these down here as well. And it takes a second. And here we go. It takes a second sometimes. This is a big layer. And you need to work this on a pixel layer. This is not an adjustment layer. This is work through a pixel layer. So we've got a medium darken, and I'll turn that on and off, the visibility, so you can see what's going on. There. All right, great. So now we know that the density over here was in the 20s, 21, 31. So we'll deactivate this and we'll go up one level higher here to 42 to 40, or 24 to 46. We'll activate it. And then we will adjust these lighter areas the best we can. It may affect some of the other areas, but we'll see. And if it does, we will mitigate those. We just are concerned with what's going on through here. And it should make it a bit darker. Doesn't, there's always another technique we can use to bring it down just a bit more. Probably a dodge and a burn tool with a selection. It's not too annoying of a look there, but we'll see if we can fix it. So strong darken, and it did. It fixed it just enough, and it didn't hurt everything else. We'll turn this on and off. So it made it a little bit darker through here as well because it was in the same zone. But we'll fix this with a bit of a dodge tool here. And we'll do this next. So we'll deactivate that so we don't need it again. And now we're going to come into here. I'm going to make a color picker here to get the right value. So now you can see that this is a area where it's going to be adjusted because it's lighter. So I'm going to close it down so it narrows it and just that gets picked. So here, great. So we will lighten that up. The dodge tool. It's making its selection. So now we can come in and all the matching in it's answered there. As you saw, I don't like to leave them on. If you want to see them on when you're working, that's up to you. It's right here. I think it's a little annoying to see all that. So we're just going to get rid of them. And I want to turn this opacity down because I don't need it that bright. Somewhere here. Great. Great. Some small adjustments, and it's only going to work on that particular zone that we selected. We're going to make this a little bit brighter over here and here. As you can see, we fixing areas where it was made darker earlier. Go back into the sky, just a little bit lighter everywhere. I chose to use the dodge tool because in some areas I'm going to make a little bit brighter than others and others a little bit dark just to give it some shape. There we go. So it's not global. I don't need a curves tool to open up everything. I just want this to be selective of what I'm adjusting. So here, under here, I want to make this just a bit brighter than we had it with the first pass. And kind of leave everything else the way it was. And we're trying to build up a little bit of contrast in here. So we're going to deselect this, press this button right here, plus minus button, and we step back and we take a look at what does this image need at this point. Well, I think we still need some a bit of pop that's almost there. It's almost there. So I'm going to bring this into a stamp layer, and we're going to bring this into Topaz and see what we can come up with in the Topaz world to make this improvement here. So we've stamped it. Now we're going to make it a smart object. And I'll bring the smart object into Topaz. Filter. It's not a difficult workflow, but everything needs to be adjusted depending on the image. So it's not a canned workflow for every image. Every image is a little different. This is just showing you some techniques that I'm using here. So we're going to go gentle with Topaz. I'm going to work with edges to enhance these lines that are in the building here just a bit more and make them a lot more prominent in all of these edges. So we're going to, first we'll go to select monochrome and edge strength. I'm going to bring it about here, 13, 14, 15. We'll take a first pass look at it. If I like it, we finish. If I don't, we're going to add a little bit of edge thickness. We can do a space bar, show you before and after. There's the original. There's the enhanced. And I always like to look, do I want the light edge or the darker edge? And I press this button to see for the lighter edge. Now, it doesn't work for me. In some cases it does, but in this case, I want the darker edge. Really, it shows off what's going on with the side of the building, this aluminum siding panel. So I want to take a look at what precision contrast is going to do for me, if anything. If it works, then we'll keep it. If not, then put it aside. So I bring up all the presets just as a beginning step, and we'll take a look at two of the ones I favor a lot, which is balance and detail, and to see which one gives me the better look. All right, so this is bringing out a bit more detail in the side of the building, And let's see what details looks like. And if it's over the top too much, we can put a mask on it at the next stage. And I think detail is just a little too strong. So we're going to go with balance. And I'm going to press the apply button here. So once we hit the apply, I'll just press execute. I'm going to tone this down just a bit, I think, from where it is. Put this on high. Tone it down just a bit from 34 down to, say here. Drop this down just a little bit. This is a little much for me. Maybe open up the mediums a little bit. And I'm going to take the midtones and open them up just a skosh, right about there. I'll press OK. And we'll see how we like this now. Good, 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 good. Now, I think it's a little too much, especially right down through here and here a little bit. So I'm going to put a mask on it. We'll press this button here, and then it attaches a white mask to the image that we just adjusted with Topaz. This is a nice feature within the TK8 world. So now we want to see which of these masks, if I look at midtones number 3, will that be the right one to tone it down? And we'll look at 2, and we'll look at 1 and see which one works the best. And I'm also going to look at lights 1 and darks 1. Make a decision on these 5 choices here. And I think the choice for me is going to be lights 1. To tone it down just a bit. And I'll show you before and after. As you can see, it toned it down ever so slightly. And I'm going to have to fix this because of the masking. You know what, let me take a look and see if that works better. Actually, it does. I prefer midtones 2. Good. It retains some of this bright value here, but we're going to have to fix this a bit, and over here just a little bit, and down and below here. And then we're going to put in a gradient from this bottom corner till right about here, just to give it some emphasis on this one window. And we will put a vignette in here as well. So next step, well, let's get rid of this. Here, I need a pixel layer. So we will make a stamp layer out of this. And then I'm going to draw a gradient from the bottom corner. So we'll make a select all. And we'll come back over to Artisan Pro. And we're going to go to the section for creating depth. Creating depth, we have these choices here for which way we want the gradient to go. In this case here, I want it from the bottom right, from this corner here, and I'm going to bring it up. So this section here is all the darks, the small, medium, and large. And so small would give you to about right here, medium to about here, and large all the way up to the top, 75%, and it'll grade it out into dark to light. Or we can go with lights. In this case, it's going to be darks, and I'm going to pick the medium dark one, and we'll watch what happens down here. It's going to come in from that corner, and it's going to take that really bright corner and tone it down a bit. There we go. There we go. Just about right. Some improvements we still need to make. So we've got a gradient on there now. We're going to go back to the paint the contrast again, and we're going to go up to these windows up here, make sure that my brush is white, make sure my size of my brush is a bit low, and we're going to bring this up to 80 or 90%, somewhere in there. So I really want to make these whites pop a little bit more. And as you can see, I really don't need to be careful. As long as I'm staying within that black and white area here, I'm only affecting the lighter tones here, and I want to come down to here. I really want these windows to be the emphasis. Here, here, down through here, through here. Very nice. I really want this to be the center of your attention when I'm finished. We'll make the brush smaller. Come in through here. Up through that top one. Edge here. Here. Looks good. But we're not there. We're almost there. So now we're going to go in and make a freehand vignette. And this is back over to TK World. And we are going to draw with the lasso tool where I would like my vignette to go. And this is a nice feature within TK. You can draw your own vignettes however you like to emphasize what you want. So we've drawn kind of an odd-shaped vignette here. Come up to freehand vignette right here, activate it, and it's going to ask us for a Gauss. This is just to blur the edges. We'll say OK with the default. And that may be a little bit heavy, so I'm going to turn that down just right about there. And I'm still making this the focal point of the image, is exactly what I wanted you to be focused on. But we're almost done in one last change. So I need to come back over and make a pixel layer. So we'll stamp this. And I'm going to put a tone in here. I do favor toning. And I like the selenium look for this particular scheme of aluminum with my black and white. I'm going to pick selenium 1 and see what it looks like. Do I like it? Perhaps. I'll turn that off. Try selenium 2. Okay, I think it's a little bit much. Try selenium 3. And I think this one may be the right one. Now I'm going to turn that up a little bit, press apply. So now we've got a little bit of selenium look in here, and I really like what I'm seeing here as the focal point. So let me take this all the way back to the beginning. Here, this is where we started, and we've made a pretty dramatic black and white. Everything is always seasoned to taste. This is mostly just to teach you technique and how you can do things. Obviously, you're going to edit to your personal likes and dislikes here. This is just an instruction of how you can make some big changes here. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 layers, 20 adjustment layers. And probably 20 minutes or a half an hour. Not that much time to work on an image. And this, obviously, you could work on it for hours on end and just tweak, tweak, tweak until it's perfection. This is a technique demonstration here. So that's it for today's lesson for conversion to black and white using TK8 luminosity masking, Artisan Pro, and Topaz, along with Photoshop and Lightroom.